We have the meta snapshot for patch 11.6b. Notice there was a B patch. There are very slight Tristana nerfs, a slight Kayle nerf, a Mage nerf, and a Nico buff. All in all, these changes don't really change the meta that much, but it does move the comps around a little bit. There's also a new comp that you guys may have seen before that I posted on my channel, the Assassin comp. That's on the tier list as well. We did slight updates to that one. So let's just get right into it. S tier, Slayers are the best, Mages second best, then Kayle. Kayle is still very strong despite the nerfs. I mean, it's like, you get a 4-cost Kayle, like, are you really not going to go for it because she could use almost any item combination? Mages, GA, Aurelion Soul is completely broken, and then Slayers, Samira late game is like one of the best late games I've ever seen for such a small requirement, which is a 2-star legendary. It's like almost auto win if you get it. After that, A tier Keepers, Brawler Shyvana, Fabled Vanguard Mystic, and then in the B tier, notice how we have a like clear head of the pack 5 comps here that I like to go to. The top 3, they're just like the consistent 4-cost carries that you go for. This A tier is kind of like if you go for like 3-star 3-cost, this is the time to go for these. It's like top 4 nation over here. And then the B tier, it's like, if you get a great start for them, like go ahead and try them, but I don't like aim for these comps at the start of the game. These are Dragonsoul, Talon, Spirit, Sharpshooters, regular Sharpshooters, Cultists, Warlords, Duelists, and then the Assassin comp that we were talking about before. C tier, don't play these. Mage Elderwood, Zed, Reroll Diana, and Reroll Nasus. I will say the Reroll Diana build is similar to the Assassin build, but there are very key differences, so like just keep that in mind. Because we do play Diana in the Assassin comp. But without further ado, let's get into how to play every single comp. I'm going to go over like all their strengths, weaknesses, all that good stuff. And if you want to know even more about this stuff, such as like knowing what counters each comp, like say you're facing a lot of Slayers, you want to know how to counter them, go onto my website, BunnyMuffins.lol, and like I list some counters down here for a bunch of comps. Some have more than others. It just depends on if I was lazy or not that week. All right, so starting with Slayers, we have like a typical 6 Slayer with 2 Vanguard build. You want as many damage items as you can on Olaf and Tryndamere. The items, like, they don't matter that much. The one that is most important is Guardian Angel. You want a Guardian Angel on both Tryndamere and Olaf. After that, any damage item will do. It could be an RFC, it could be a Runons, it could be a Deathblade, it could be Hand of Justice, it could be a Last Whisper, it could be Bloodthirster. Best one is probably Last Whisper on Tryndamere, and then Runons on Olaf. I'd say those are the 2 best items after Guardian Angel on both of these champions. And then third item, it's really just whatever you get that game. It really depends on who you're facing in your lobby as well. And then Samira, RFC is by far the best item, and then Last Whisper on her makes it so she can kill anyone in the late game. And then third item, it could be literally anything. It could be tank, it could be more damage. At that point, if you have 2-star Samira with these items, it's kind of GG. Maybe GA is the best if it's 2-star, but if it's 1-star, probably a damage item. A great thing about this composition is that you could go for it from the Fortune start, which is a pretty popular strategy now. It's a little risky, so you really have to know what you're doing. Don't try the Fortune stuff at home without parent supervision because, yeah, it gets a little dicey sometimes, and you'll get 8th a couple of times. So if you like that kind of playstyle 1st or 8th, definitely go for the Fortune starts. We're going to have a guide on that later this week, so if you guys are new, make sure to like and subscribe to get notifications for that video. Or like the full guide will also be on my website, so if you do the website or video, both work. Just depends on what you like to do. Next comp is Mages. So if you get a Mage Spatula, put that on Swain, 7 Mages. Mage ults twice, which means he gets a ton of health because every time he ultimates, he gains a ton of health. So Mage Hat with like Warmogs on Swain can get something to like absolutely ridiculous. And then afterwards, Aurelion Soul, like Jeweled Gauntlet, Guardian Angel, Gunblade, or Hand of Justice is fine. Guardian Angel is really the key item here because Aurelion Soul ults a lot after the Guardian Angel, so if he dies, he'll still get his ults off, which is really nice. And then if you have like a Gunblade, he'll heal back up, or he just kills them all if you have full damage. Both work really fine. Again, this is another comp you could do from the Fortune start because both Mages and Slayers, they have very high potential to go first place. And that is contrary to the Kayle build. Kayle is... it's kind of like a 2nd or 3rd place build, in my opinion. It's still good, but I wouldn't go for them if you are going Fortunes because they're just better things to do if you get Fortune payouts with like lots of Nikos or like lots of Spatulas. It's still a great comp. You just need to make sure you have support items on your Kindred for the Kayle and then like good Kayle items. So what that means is either a lot of support items plus these utility items on Kayle. Utility items are the RFC and the Quicksilver. Pure damage items I would categorize as like Gwynsu's Rageblade, Jeweled Gauntlet, those types of things. Other defensive choices are Guardian Angel, and other like kind of in between items are Hand of Justice. You could even go like Static Shiv on Kayle, worst case scenario, but bow items are really good. A Duelist Spatula is another option because you run Jax and Lee Sin for Duelists. And there are many other ways to play this Kayle composition. You don't have to pick what you have out here. In this picture, we have the Adept frontline, but you could do Vanguards as well. 4 Divine isn't that important. You could go down to 2 Divine if you go the Vanguard route. If you don't get Executioner chosen, you could also drop Xayah. I have like a full guide on this on my website. You just like go to the meta snapshot. There's full guide here, there's a video guide, and then I have like a ton of gameplay for Kayle if you want to like see some of the games in action. Going down to the A tier, Keeper Kennen. Keepers, they're like almost a guaranteed top 4 if you get a good start for it. So if you have like high health in stage 3 and then you get a Keeper Kennen with like GA Morello and then like you 2-star him potentially, you're going to get top 4. You're going to like perma-streak throughout stage 3 and 4. And then after that, you'll slowly start to bleed out. And then as long as you get like an Ornn or like you manage your health really well, like you will get top 4 almost no matter what. And you could potentially win with a lot of Ornn items or with like a very powerful random legendary unit such as Set or like literally just anyone who's 5 cost and 2-starred. But really, when you play this comp, you're just prioritizing Guardian Angel and Morello and trying to get some keepers. This is great if you do like a Keeper Cultist start. I think that's the best start in the game because Cultist is really strong and Keepers are the best complementary synergy for that build. And then you could just easily pivot into this Kennen if you happen to hit like a Keeper chosen on a later roll down. Now onto Brawlers. Brawlers are with Shyvana carry. Runons is the only mandatory item on Shyvana. The rest don't really matter. I like at least having one Hand of Justice, but you could do Guardian Angel, you could do Quicksilver, like any sort of like all the items that worked for like all the other attack damage carries, they're going to work for Shyvana. And then Set 2-star with Jeweled Gauntlet, he's going to be smashing people. So Set's actually really good in this meta. That's why I rank Brawlers really highly right now because everyone's playing Keepers with like a 3-star Kennen, so they're all grouped up in the center. People are playing a lot of Mage Swain, so Swain has a ton of health and Set can just destroy him because Set is really good against high health targets because he deals % health damage to his target and then his target's damage gets put on everyone around him. Next up, Vanguard, Fabled, Mystic. This one's another top 4 comp. You run Nico, very similar items to Aurelion Soul. So if you are going for the Mages build and then you happen to get like chosen Nico, you could pivot into this if you have like a little bit of health. Because again, this is a top 4 comp, so it's just built around winning the entire stage 3 and stage 4, and then just slowly bleeding out in stage 5 or stage 6. And then potentially you can win if you get like 3-star Nico, 3-star Nautilus, a bunch of Ornn items. Same way the Kennen build can win. But generally, this build doesn't win too much because all the S tier comps, those are really the ones that are 1st or 8th, especially if they do like some sort of fortune start. A lot of times in this meta right now, it's hard to win the game because there's so many fortune players. So it's like, if the fortune player cashes out, like he's probably going to win the game. And sometimes you're just playing for 2nd. And then going for like Brawlers, Fabled, Vanguard, Mystic, or Keepers is a very good option. Next up, we have Dragonsoul. This is just like the worst version of the Slayer or Mage build. So if you're caught in something like in between, say you have items for both Mages and Slayers, you could consider going the Dragonsoul build. They both use Olaf really well. They both use Aurelion Soul really well. They both use Swain really well. So all the important units in the meta right now they're using, which is why I rank this comp lower, because it's going to be hard to hit this comp. You kind of go for this after you're going for like Slayers or going for Dragonsoul or going for Mages, and then you hit like a Dragonsoul chosen Asoul or like Dragonsoul chosen Olaf or something like that, and then you just kind of pivot into this. It's still a decent comp if you hit it, but like it's just hard to like force this from the get-go. I'd rather force Slayers or Mages from the get-go. Next build, Enlightened Talon. Talon kind of sucks right now, I'm not going to lie. Just compared to all the other big carries, he's just dealing the least amount of damage. I don't know how else to describe it. So that's why he's lower. Obviously, if you get a chosen Talon and like good items on him and a Morello on Morgana, go ahead and play it, but don't keep your hopes too high. Onto the next build, we have Spirit Sharpshooter. So this one's just the reroll Tristana and Diana build. You just get Tristana chosen or a Spirit chosen or any Sharpshooter chosen such as Teemo or Sivir. The only one you don't want is Nidalee because she's useless. And then you just slow roll on level 5, get 3-star Diana, 3-star Tristana, and they just absolutely carry people. It did get a very slight nerf, but it's really very minuscule. It shouldn't affect the comp at all. Onto Sharpshooters, Vanguards, and this is like one of the pivots that you could do from the comp above. Say you're going for this Spirit reroll comp and then you just don't hit any Dianas or don't hit any Tristanas. You could go for Sivir carry. So Sivir's really nice at 3-star with RFC, Last Whisper, and Quicksilver, and she will carry a lot of games. I have a good game on this too that you guys can check out on my channel. I think I called it like the Sharpshooter Exodia build because 3-star Sivir with these items, like she destroys almost everything. Like someone has to get a ridiculous team like 3-star something in order to beat this, just because she does like a ton of damage from a long range, and she's pretty safe when doing so. Next build, Cultists. I love Cultists. If you get Cultist chosen, you could just go for 9 Cultists in the mid game. Like, say you go for like a Keeper Cultist start, then you sell your chosen, like maybe you had an Elise early, you sell her, and then roll down on 4-1, you get like a Sivir Cultist chosen or Kalista Cultist chosen or Aatrox. Go ahead and go for this build because it's going to be really strong. You could do either Sivir or Kalista carry, and then hopefully Galio is doing the main carrying for you, because these two units, they don't really have their affiliated synergies, so they're not going to be that great as carries, but Galio is going to be doing the most of the work for you, and yeah, he will smash people who are not strong in the lobby. So anyone who low rolls, they get destroyed by the Cultist comp. Onto the next build, we have Warlords. Warlords, it's kind of the comp if like you get it, you play it, and like you will win the game if you get 3-star Katarina and like 9 Warlords with perfect items, because she's kind of unstoppable with a Quicksilver and the Gunblade with like a ton of Warlord buffs, because she just one-shots people in one ultimate, so in a pretty big area. The only time she's not gonna win is if like you jump to the wrong side and there are other carries on the other side and kills your whole team before she gets a second ultimate off, but generally she's gonna be pretty strong. So I really like this comp if you get chosen Warlord, and it's a great win streak comp to kind of snowball the game from the beginning. Onto the next build, we have Duelists. Duelists, try not to play them. I don't really think they're that great, but it's just a reroll Yasuo, and then you pray to get Lee Sin, and Lee Sin's really the carry. Yone's really helpful as well. Yasuo does do a little bit, but like you really need to get a very strong start for this for it to work. Now onto the Assassin comp. I'm not going to talk too much about it because I just made a video on it that you guys can check out. It was like posted yesterday, but go Lockets on Diana, go for Akali. Any items work on Akali as long as you have 6 Assassins, and then make sure you have Lockets. All your Assassins jump to the back line. They like 1-tap everything. And just from autos, not even from their spells. So like even if you have like a Katarina here who's like the worst assassin, you don't even need her spell to kill people. She'll just auto people to death. Just because the 6 assassin buff increases your critical strike chance and critical strike damage by so much that they just end up killing a lot of things just by auto attacking. It's really fun to see. This build, I only recommend going for it if you have a Diana chosen, but sometimes you don't get that. And you still could force this comp. People are doing that, but you just really have to know what you are doing if you go that route. After that, C tiers, don't play them. Mage Elderwood, they're just like, why are you playing Asol in this comp when you can play him in the Mage comp? Just ignore the C tier. Now onto the items. So Carousel Priority, it's a little weird. It depends on what comps you go for, what your playstyle is. I think Glove is the most flexible. If you're forcing like one of the S tier comps, then Sword is probably the best. It really depends on your playstyle, but I'd go for either Sword or Glove first, and then if you are a Kayle player, just like force Bow every game. Rod's decent for early game items or for like Locket builds, so it really depends on what your playstyle is. You use this as a guide. It's not like a set in stone rule. Also, like this will change based on the meta because the meta changes every day, so maybe like the positions shift around a little bit, but you really just have to match it to your own style, find out what works for you. But this is what I'd suggest, and it just depends on what comps you know how to play, and that's really going to be the decision factor of the Carousel Priority. And lastly, here's the item quadrant. Top right are the items you want to build, bottom left is what you want to avoid, and then the other ones you kind of build them depending on what the state of the game is and what comps you're going. But yeah, you guys can check this all out on my website at bunnymuffins.lol. And we have a bunch of other guides there too for a lot of these comps. So if you want like more in-depth stuff, definitely check that out. But just to recap, Slayers, Mages, Kayle, they're like the Trinity, Holy Trinity for this patch, or for this set for the most part, because we're going to be on this patch for a while most likely. And then A tiers, these are kind of like your top 4 comps. You go for them if you have great starts, and then you kind of want to just slowly bleed out for the rest of the game and get a free top 4. B tier, you only go for these if you get very good chosens for them. If not, avoid. And C tier, don't play these at all. And that is it for this patch. Again, there was a B patch, so definitely some minor changes here and there. But let me know what comps you guys are using, and if you guys have any new comps that you want to try out, let me know down in the comments below. But if not, smash like if you enjoyed the video, and I will see you guys later.